There's blood beneath these cobblestones. Blood followed by tears. As we whip around Paris by taxi, filling our bodies, moving through the pistons of our hearts. And Monsieur Simon, our driver, and I'd like to think of him as a friend by now, points out an enormous hotel-like building. He speaks into his phone, some application translating as he goes, and it says, "This used to be Nazi headquarters during the Vichy." Connards, I say, one of the few words I know in French, and use it quite liberally. It means asshole. I've been using it here a lot as a joke for levity, but what else can be said about such a thing, about such a place, about such a time? I stood later at the Arc de Triomphe and watched the flame of the unknown soldier sizzle. A moment behind me, a man dropped to one knee and proposed to a beautiful French girl with chestnut-colored hair and skin like café au lait. I thought of the Nazis marching into Paris under that arch, and then I thought of that other day years later. The Americans marched through that with Charles de Gaulle in the lead, and all of Paris came out to celebrate, to weep, to grieve. These were unquestionably great times. I've just come from Dublin before Paris. I'm on some kind of journey, a literary journey, I suppose, that begins with a book. He proves by algebra that Shakespeare's ghost is Hamlet's grandfather. Futility, ugly and futile, yet someone had loved him, borne him in her arms and in her heart. But for her, the race of the world would have trampled him underfoot, squashed him boneless like a snail. She had loved his weak, watery blood, drained from her own. Was that then real? The only true thing in life? Ghostly light on, the tortured face. Thinks Joyce's alter ego, Stephen Daedalus. In Ulysses, he's ruminating on his mother's death while he's teaching a young boy at the school where he's a professor. Now I am at Sylvia Beach's Shakespeare and Company. It's from under the city. It's fresh and clean. You can wash yourself with it. You can drink it. It's not from the Seine. This comes from a pure underground source. Oh. I learned that yesterday when I was drinking and washing myself with some clochard that I met here. Seemed like a nice fella. Here I am, and the ghost of Henry Miller's flickering in my blood. Baudelaire, at whose cenotaph I had earlier laid 3 single roses, the greatest lyric poet who ever lived. I lay 3 roses for Beckett, and 1 for Serge Gainsborough. Carlos Fuentes got 1, but I couldn't find Julio Cortázar. His white grave, I'd seen pictures, but I just couldn't find it. And an orderly in a blue shirt rode on his bicycle up and down the white, sanded gravel path, yelling, "Allez, allez, c'est fermé, c'est fermé." I begged him if he knew where Cortázar's grave was. "I know where every of the graves are, monsieur," he said to me. "So would you do this? It would mean very, very much." I handed the rest of the bouquet to him, and I think he understood me. He took them. He took them in a way that seemed to signal that he understood their importance. I walk with my cane by my side. I have no idea at the time that my foot is shattered, broken in many different places. It's healed somewhat, and I'm able to get around mostly as long as I use a cane. The sun always seems to be hitting Notre Dame or my eyes directly. The player speaks these words to the son of his soul, the son of his body, a ghost of logical conclusions. Paris eats contradiction. It devours it, delighted, as surely as if it were a towering, glistening foie gras spread on the finest bread. I suppose that's what it's all about. I suppose that's what I wanted to learn, wanted to find. The most important book in all of history, well, at least modern history. I traced it from its beginning to its end, or rather, from its end to its beginning. They say Monsieur de Sade screamed from his cell, "They're killing us in here," at the Bastille, the day that they breached its walls. At least he may have boasted of doing so. What a day to be alive, just imagine it. They said the walls of that prison would outlive every man, woman, and child in France. I click my cane down sloped alleys and slanted streets. From one cafe, a woman's voice singing in French. I go in and order a rosé right away. She has the voice of an angel. The snot green, blue, silver-colored signs that point us in what direction? The invisible hand leading me. A very short space of time through a very short time of space. My ash sword hangs by my side. Tap with it. Am I walking along eternity? Open your eyes. World without end. I've walked these streets. I've walked by the greatest men in history, or their ghosts at least. My heroes, from Lautréamont through Apollinaire and Beckett on whose grave I stood and saw my own reflection, and these are my heroes. I've walked these streets walked by the great men in literary history, who walk beside me and inside me and through me, and through my own pen remain alive, and I in conversation with them who I have not met and who I will never meet. And yet, we continue the conversation down through the times, through the ages. I suppose that's what it's all about. I suppose that's what I wanted to learn, wanted to find. The most important book in all of history, well, at least modern history. I traced it from its beginning to its end, or rather, from its end to its beginning. Now I make a mental note to pick up Mavis Gallant's Paris stories again, to return with my lover, for it's a city that must be seen with the person you love. I only saw half of Paris, you see. I only just got a taste, and that's all I needed to become addicted for life.